My name is Rachel Adams. I'm 34 years old, and I found out my brother had taken out a $62,000 care loan in my name when the bank manager turned his computer screen toward me and said, "Ms. Adams, do you recognize the man in this security footage?" For a few seconds, I couldn't speak. The man on the screen was my brother Jason. He was wearing his gray jacket, the one he always wore when he wanted to look responsible. He was standing at the counter of Westbridge Community Bank, holding a folder in one hand and signing something with the other. The timestamp said Tuesday, March 14th, 10:42 a.m. I was at work that morning. I remember because my manager had asked me to cover front desk while the receptionist was out sick. I was not at the bank. I had never applied for that loan. I had never signed those papers, but the account was in my name. $62,000. Past due. Interest growing. Care loan, the file said. Medical and long-term care support for Linda Adams, my mother. The same mother who had suffered a stroke 8 months earlier and needed help with nearly everything. The same mother I visited every weekend, bringing groceries, clean nightgowns, medication lists, and the strawberry yogurt she could still swallow when everything else tasted wrong. The same mother who had looked at Jason like he was a hero because he told everyone he was paying for her care. My brother had spent months telling our family I was selfish. At Mom's birthday dinner, he raised a glass and said, "Some people show up with flowers. I show up with money." Everyone knew he meant me. My aunt looked disappointed. My cousin shook his head. My mother, weak and tired, looked from him to me with tears in her eyes, like I had become the daughter who visited but did not sacrifice. I thought the worst thing Jason had taken from me was my reputation. I was wrong. The bank manager, Mr. Collins, paused the video. "Ms. Adams," he said gently, "is that your brother?" I nodded. Yes. My voice sounded far away. "That's Jason." Beside me, my Aunt Carol covered her mouth. My cousin Mark whispered, "Oh my God." Jason, sitting on the other side of the table, stared at the screen like he had never seen his own face before. He had insisted on coming to the bank with us. He said he wanted to clear up Rachel's confusion. He walked in confident, annoyed, almost bored. Now his face had gone gray. Mr. Collins clicked another file. The loan documents were submitted with copies of your identification, your employment information, and an electronic signature. He turned the monitor slightly. But the in-branch security footage shows Mr. Adams submitting the packet. I looked at Jason. "You used my name." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time in my life, my brother had no story ready. Mr. Collins continued, "There are also transfer records showing the loan proceeds did not go entirely to your mother's care facility." My Aunt Carol turned slowly toward Jason. "What does that mean?" I already knew I would hate the answer. Mr. Collins looked at me, not Jason. A portion was sent to a home renovation contractor. Another portion to a business debt settlement account. My hands went cold. Jason's kitchen, Jason's failed landscaping business, Jason's shiny new truck tires. All the things he said came from tight budgeting while telling everyone I refused to help Mom. My mother was not there that day. She was at the rehab center, waiting for me to bring her clean socks and the mystery novel she had been trying to finish for 3 weeks. She still believed Jason had saved her. She still believed I had not done enough. And now I was sitting in a bank conference room, watching a security video prove that my brother had used her illness, my name, and my silence to build himself into the hero of a story he had stolen. Before my mother's stroke, our family had a shape everyone understood. Mom was the center, Jason was the golden son, I was the reliable daughter. Reliable sounds nice until you realize it means people stop asking if you are tired. My mother, Linda Adams, raised us mostly alone after my father left when I was 11 and Jason was 15. Dad did not disappear completely. He sent birthday cards, late child support, and the kind of apologies that sounded better over the phone than they felt in real life. Mom worked as a receptionist at a dental office and carried the family with a tired dignity I admired for most of my childhood. Jason, being older and male and angry at Dad in the way people found understandable, became protected. If he got in trouble, he was struggling. If I got upset, I was being dramatic. If he broke curfew, Mom said, "Boys need room." If I missed one chore after studying all night, she said, "Women cannot fall apart every time life gets hard." Jason learned early that charm could cover laziness. I learned early that usefulness could earn peace. By the time I was 20, I had become the family translator, scheduler, helper, and emotional shock absorber. I remembered Mom's appointments. I brought food when Jason forgot holidays. I sent money when the electric bill was late. I helped Jason write resumes after he quit jobs he said were beneath him. I listened when Mom cried about being lonely. I listened when Jason complained that nobody believed in him. Nobody listened much when I was tired. That was the arrangement, and for years I mistook it for love. Jason was not always terrible. That is what makes stories like this hard to explain. He could be funny. He could make Mom laugh until she wheezed. He could fix a sink if he felt like being praised for it. He could walk into a room and make people believe he had everything under control, even when I knew he had borrowed gas money from me to get there. He failed at several things, but somehow every failure became noble. A business partner betrayed him. A boss misunderstood him. A customer refused to pay him. The economy turned against him. Bad luck followed Jason, according to my mother. Consequences followed me. I became a medical billing specialist at a clinic in Westbridge. It was not glamorous, but I was good at it. I understood forms, insurance codes, payment plans, and the way systems punish people who do not know which box to check. That knowledge would later save me, though not before it nearly destroyed me. Mom was 64 when she had the stroke. It happened on a Tuesday morning in her kitchen. She had been making tea. She dropped the mug, tried to call Jason, then somehow managed to press my number instead. All I heard when I answered was breathing and a strange dragging sound. I called 911 from my desk while running to my car. I do not remember driving to her house. I remember the ambulance. I remember one slipper on the floor near the stove. I remember Jason arriving 40 minutes later, hair wet like he had taken time to shower. He hugged Mom dramatically in the emergency room and said, "I'm here now." People looked at him with sympathy. I was the one holding her medication list, insurance card, and phone charger. I was the one answering the nurse's questions. But Jason was the one who looked like the son in the movie version. After that day, nothing returned to normal. Mom survived, but the stroke took pieces of her independence. Her speech slowed. Her right hand weakened. She needed help bathing, dressing, walking, remembering medication, and managing bills. The doctor said recovery would be long. The social worker said care planning would be complicated. Jason said, "Don't worry, I'll handle the money." I should have asked what that meant. I should have known that when Jason says he will handle money, what he usually means is that money is about to disappear. The first month after the stroke was a blur of hospital rooms, rehab paperwork, insurance calls, and family opinions. Everyone had something to say. Aunt Carol said Mom needed a skilled facility. Cousin Mark said home care was better. Jason said facilities were too expensive, but somehow never sat through the meetings where actual costs were explained. I went to every appointment I could. I used vacation days, sick days, lunch breaks, and eventually unpaid hours. At work, I smiled and told people things were manageable. They were not. Mom cried when therapists asked her to lift her right arm. She cried when she could not remember a word. She cried when a nurse helped her shower for the first time. I cried in parking lots, bathrooms, and once behind a vending machine because a man was taking too long choosing chips, and I could not make my body stop shaking. Jason visited with coffee, flowers, and stories. He would arrive after the hard parts and leave before the paperwork. Mom brightened when he walked in. "There's my boy," she would say, her words slow but full of love. I do not blame her for loving him. I blame him for using it. When the rehab center said Mom would need longer-term support, Jason called a family meeting. We gathered in Mom's small living room, where the couch still smelled faintly of her lavender detergent. Mom was in her recliner, a blanket over her legs. I sat beside her with a notebook. Jason stood by the fireplace like a man about to make an announcement. "I've been looking at care options," he said. That was the first lie. He had not looked. I had emailed him the options. "There are costs," he continued. "Big ones. I'm willing to step up." Aunt Carol's eyes filled. "Jason, that's wonderful." He nodded humbly. "She's our mother." Then he looked at me. "But everyone should contribute." The way he said everyone made my face heat. I said, "I'm already contributing. I've handled the insurance appeals, the medication list, the rehab schedule, and I'm here every weekend." Jason gave me a patient smile. "We all appreciate visits, Rachel, but care costs money." Visits. That is what he called it. Visits. Not bathing Mom when she had an accident. Not sitting with her while she practiced speech exercises. Not spending 3 hours on the phone because insurance denied a therapy extension. Visits. Aunt Carol touched my arm. "Honey, Jason is right. We all need to do our part." I remember feeling ashamed, even though I had done nothing wrong. That was Jason's gift. He could move guilt around a room until it landed on someone else. I asked, "What exactly are you proposing?" He said he was arranging a loan to cover gaps in Mom's care. A care loan, he called it. He said he had spoken to the bank, and with his credit and some family documentation, it would be handled. I said, "What bank?" He waved a hand. "Westbridge." "I've got it." I frowned. "Jason, be careful. Care loans have terms, interest, repayment schedules." He smiled. "There she goes. Paperwork police." People laughed lightly. Mom smiled, too tired to understand the edge under it. I stopped talking. That was another mistake. Silence feels peaceful in the moment, but it gives liars space to build. Over the next few months, Jason became the public hero. He posted photos visiting Mom with captions like, "Doing what family does." He told relatives he was covering major expenses. He said he had sacrificed plans, delayed business investments, and taken financial responsibility. Meanwhile, I bought groceries, paid for medical supplies, covered co-pays, washed clothes, changed sheets, and cleaned Mom's apartment when she cried because she hated feeling helpless. When I asked Jason for money toward supplies, he said, "Rachel, I'm handling the big stuff. Don't nickel and dime me over yogurt and socks." Yogurt and socks. That was what he called the small things that made my mother's days bearable. By the 4th month, Mom had moved from rehab to a small assisted care apartment connected to a therapy center. It was not fancy, but it was clean, safe, and close enough that I could visit after work. Jason told everyone he found it. I had found it. He told everyone he negotiated the rate. I had negotiated the rate. He told everyone he made the first large payment. I never saw proof of that, but at the time, I wanted to believe him. Believing him was easier than admitting my brother might use our mother's illness as a stage. Mom struggled with the move. She missed her old kitchen. She missed doing laundry. She missed walking to the mailbox without help. On Saturdays, I brought pieces of home to her. Her blue quilt, her framed photo of us at the beach when we were kids, the yellow mug she loved, a small pot of basil for the windowsill. Jason brought larger things when people were watching. A new television, flowers, a robe with tags still on it. He bought things that photographed well. I brought things she actually used. One Sunday afternoon, I arrived and found Jason there with Aunt Carol and Cousin Mark. They were laughing around Mom's little dining table. Jason had brought a bakery cake and balloons for Mom's birthday. Her birthday was still a week away, but Jason said it worked better with his schedule. I had planned a quiet dinner for the actual day. He knew that. He did not care. "Rachel," Aunt Carol said when I walked in. "There you are." Her tone carried something. Disappointment, maybe, or pity. Jason stood and hugged me with one arm. "Glad you could make it." I looked at the balloons, the cake, the phone propped up to record. I understood then. This was not a birthday visit. It was a performance. Mom smiled weakly from her chair. "Both my babies," she said. That softened me. It always did. We sang. Jason cut the cake. Mark took photos. Then Jason gave a speech. In a care apartment. Over grocery store cake. "Mom," he said, lifting a plastic cup of sparkling cider, "you gave everything to us. Now it's our turn. I may not be perfect, but I'll always make sure you're taken care of." Aunt Carol cried. Mark clapped him on the back. Then Jason looked at me and added, "Some people show up with flowers. I show up with money." The room went silent for half a second, not long enough for Mom to understand, but long enough for everyone else. I was holding the grocery bag I had brought, full of compression socks, protein shakes, and the lotion her therapist recommended. My hands tightened around the handles. I said, "Jason." He gave me that calm smile again. "What? I'm just saying care is expensive." Aunt Carol avoided my eyes. Mark muttered, "He's not wrong." I wanted to open my bag and spill every receipt onto the table. I wanted to ask how many therapy calls Jason had made, how many forms he had filled out, how many nights he had spent listening to Mom cry because she could not button her own blouse. Instead, I looked at Mom. She was staring at Jason with watery pride. She believed him, or she wanted to. I put the groceries away quietly. That night, I sat in my car outside the apartment and cried from a kind of exhaustion I had no name for. My phone buzzed. Jason had posted a photo. He was kneeling beside Mom, holding her hand. Caption: "When family needs you, you step up. No excuses." I stared at the words until my screen blurred. Then I saved the post. I did not know why at the time. Later, it became evidence. Not legal evidence, maybe, but evidence of the lie he enjoyed telling while I paid for its background. The first sign that something was wrong with my name came in the mail. It was a plain envelope from Westbridge Community Bank with my full legal name typed above my apartment address. I almost threw it into the stack of statements and advertisements on my counter. Then I saw the words, "Urgent Loan Notice." I opened it standing in my kitchen. Past due amount, $1,842. Care support loan ending in 7719. Principal balance, $62,000. Borrower, Rachel Elaine Adams. For a few seconds, I thought it was a scam. It had to be. I had no loan with Westbridge. I had no account ending in 7719. I had never borrowed $62,000 in my life. My hands started shaking. I called the number on the notice, and after 20 minutes of transfers and identity questions, a representative said, "Miss Adams, this loan was opened 5 months ago for medical care expenses." I said, "No, it wasn't." She paused. "You're saying you did not open this loan?" "That is exactly what I'm saying." Her tone changed, professional, careful. "Then we need to schedule a fraud review." Fraud. The word landed like a stone. I asked for copies of the loan packet. She said they would provide them at the appointment. I asked what documents had been used. She said identification, employment verification, and medical care documentation for Linda Adams, my mother. I knew then, in a place deeper than thought, that Jason was involved. I did not want to know it, but I knew. There are only so many people who know your full name, your workplace, your mother's care details, and how to sound confident while lying. I called him immediately. He answered on the 4th ring. "What's up?" he said, casual as anything. I said, "Did you take out a loan in my name?" Silence. Not long. Not enough for a confession. Just long enough to matter. "What?" he said. "A care loan. Westbridge Bank. $62,000. He laughed, too loudly. "Rachel, what are you talking about? I got a past due notice." His voice changed. "You probably signed something and forgot. You were involved in a lot of Mom's paperwork." My stomach turned. I did not forget signing a $62,000 loan. "Calm down. Do not tell me to calm down." He sighed like I was difficult. "Bring it to the family meeting Sunday. We'll sort it out." Family meeting? Aunt Carol wants to talk about Mom's care costs. And honestly, this proves my point. You've been acting like money isn't your problem, but clearly you agreed to help and now you're panicking. I could barely breathe. He was already building the next version. Rachel agreed. Rachel forgot. Rachel is panicking. Rachel is trying to avoid responsibility. I said, "Jason, if you did this, it's fraud." His voice went cold. "Be careful accusing people." Then he hung up. I did not sleep that night. I printed the notice. I searched my files. I checked my credit report and found the loan. There it was, real as a bruise. My score had dropped. The account showed late payments. My name was attached to a debt I did not create. On Saturday, I visited Mom. I did not tell her yet. She was having a good day, and I could not bear to turn her world into another battlefield. She smiled when I brought her a soft pink sweater. "Pretty," she said slowly. "You always know." I sat beside her and helped her try it on. Her hand trembled as she touched the sleeve. Then she looked at me for a long time. "You look tired." I smiled. "Just work." Her eyes moved over my face, slower now, but still searching. "Jason says you worry too much." I looked down at the buttons. Jason says a lot. Mom's fingers closed around mine. "You come," she whispered. "I know that." I almost told her everything then. Instead, I squeezed her hand and said, "Yes, Mom, I come." The family meeting took place at Aunt Carol's house on Sunday afternoon. Aunt Carol had made coffee, as if caffeine could make betrayal more polite. Mark was there with his wife, Denise. Jason arrived last, wearing the gray jacket from the bank video I had not yet seen. He greeted everyone warmly, kissed Aunt Carol on the cheek, and looked at me like I was already unreasonable. Mom was not there. Aunt Carol said she did not want to upset her. I noticed that nobody worried about upsetting me. We sat around the dining table, where I had eaten Thanksgiving dinners for 20 years. Jason placed a folder in front of him. I placed the bank notice in front of me. Aunt Carol began. "We all love Linda. We all know care is expensive. Jason has taken on a lot." I looked at Jason. He lowered his eyes humbly. It was a masterpiece of performance. "But now there seems to be confusion about financial responsibility," Aunt Carol continued. "Rachel, honey, did you sign something you didn't understand?" I stared at her. "No." Mark leaned back. "You work in medical billing. You know how paperwork goes." "Exactly," I said. "That's how I know I didn't sign this." Jason opened his folder. "Rachel, I don't want this to get ugly." I almost laughed. "You mean uglier than a loan in my name?" He slid a copy across the table. "This is the family care plan. We discussed shared responsibility." I looked at the document. It was a basic outline from months earlier, not a loan agreement. My name appeared in meeting notes because I had attended. Jason tapped the page. "You were involved. Being involved in care planning is not the same as borrowing $62,000. Denise looked at Jason. "Did she sign the loan or not?" Jason's jaw tightened. "The bank has documents." Aunt Carol looked at me sadly. "Rachel, if you were overwhelmed and signed something, we can help you make a plan. But denying it makes Jason look bad after everything he's done." There it was, the purpose of the meeting. Not to find truth, to protect Jason's image. I took out the bank notice. "Then come with me to the fraud appointment." Jason's eyes flickered. "What appointment?" "Westbridge scheduled a review. They'll show the loan packet." "Good," he said quickly. "Maybe that will refresh your memory." "And security footage," I said. His face changed. Just slightly, but I saw it. "Security footage?" Mark asked. I looked at Jason. "Banks have cameras." Jason recovered. "Fine, let's go. I have nothing to hide." He said it too fast. Aunt Carol seemed relieved. "Good, then we'll all get clarity." Clarity. Families love soft words for hard things. Jason insisted he would attend with me, as support. Aunt Carol asked to come too. Mark said he would come because he was tired of drama. I wanted to say, drama is what people call harm when they are not the ones bleeding. Instead, I agreed. That night, Jason texted me, "You're making a mistake." I wrote back, "Then the bank will prove it." He did not respond. On Monday morning, before the appointment, I went to see Mom. She was in physical therapy, slowly lifting her foot over a small blue cone. Her therapist cheered. Mom smiled with half her mouth, proud and embarrassed. I watched from the doorway and felt the anger inside me twist into grief. Jason had used this, her weakness, her bills, her trust. He had taken one of the most vulnerable seasons of her life and turned it into a cover story. When therapy ended, Mom saw me and reached out. "Rachel," she said. I hugged her carefully. She smelled like lotion and laundry detergent. "I'll come back later," I said. "After an appointment." "Work?" she asked. I looked at her. "Something like that." She touched my cheek. "Don't fight with Jason." My eyes burned. "I'm trying not to." She smiled sadly. He talks loud when scared. Even after everything, she knew him. She just did not yet know what he had done. Westbridge Community Bank sat on the corner of Maple and 3rd, in a brick building with spotless windows and a flag moving in the wind outside. I had passed it hundreds of times without feeling anything. That morning, it looked like a courthouse. Jason arrived before me, which was unusual enough to be suspicious. Aunt Carol came with Mark. They stood near the entrance, all of them looking like people attending someone else's problem. Jason smiled when he saw me. Ready? I looked at his gray jacket. Very. Mr. Collins, the bank manager, greeted us at the front and led us to a conference room with glass walls and a long table. He was in his 50s, careful-eyed, with the calm voice of a man trained to deliver bad news without making it worse. A fraud specialist joined by video call. Mr. Collins began by confirming my identity, then asked me to state clearly whether I had applied for or authorized the care loan. I said, no, I did not. Jason shifted in his chair. Mr. Collins opened the loan packet. There were copies of my driver's license, my clinic employment letter, my mother's care invoices, and an electronic signature that looked almost like mine if you had never seen me write quickly. My stomach turned. That is not my signature. The fraud specialist asked Jason, Mr. Adams, what is your relationship to this loan? Jason sat straighter. I helped coordinate family care paperwork. My sister was overwhelmed. I assumed she understood what she was signing. Mr. Collins looked at him. You submitted the packet in branch. Jason blinked. I dropped off documents. For your sister. For our mother. That was Jason. Replace the person harmed with the noble purpose. Mr. Collins clicked something on his computer. We reviewed branch footage after Ms. Adams disputed the loan. He turned the monitor toward us. The video opened in silence. Jason appeared on screen, walking to the counter with a folder. He spoke to the loan officer. He handed over documents. He signed a form. He laughed at something. He looked calm, comfortable, practiced. Mr. Collins paused the video at the moment Jason's pen touched paper. Mr. Adams, is that you? No one breathed. Jason stared at the image of himself. Yes, he said finally. But I was just helping. Helping who? I asked. He did not look at me. Mr. Collins played another clip. Jason returning 2 days later. Jason presenting additional documents. Jason accepting a printed confirmation. Then Mr. Collins opened the disbursement records. The loan proceeds were deposited into an account ending in 4412. From there, payments were made to Linda Adams's care account, but also to other recipients. Aunt Carol leaned forward. Other recipients? Mr. Collins listed them carefully. A home renovation contractor, a business debt settlement company, an auto repair shop, several cash withdrawals. Mark turned to Jason. What the hell? Jason's face flushed. I used some temporarily. The word temporarily landed like a slap. I said, you forged my name temporarily? He finally looked at me. I was under pressure. I laughed once. It sounded sharp and wrong. Mom had a stroke and you renovated your kitchen. That kitchen needed repairs before I could sell the house. Your house? Aunt Carol whispered. Jason. He turned to her, pleading now. You don't understand. I was drowning. Mom's care was expensive. Rachel was judging everything. I had to move money around. I said, you told everyone I refused to help. You did refuse to help financially. You put a loan in my name because you had better credit. The room went silent again. There it was. Not an apology, not even denial. The reason, my credit, my stability, my usefulness. Jason had looked at my life and seen another resource to drain. Mr. Collins stopped the recording. Ms. Adams, based on what we've reviewed, this will be escalated as identity theft and loan fraud. You'll receive formal documentation. We also recommend filing a police report. Police report? Jason's face changed completely. Rachel, he said. My name in his mouth became soft, desperate. Come on. I looked at the paused image on the screen. My brother signing my future away. No, I said. Not this time. After the bank meeting, Jason followed me into the parking lot. Aunt Carol stayed behind with Mark, still inside the glass doors, watching us like people watch a storm from a window. Jason grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to remind me he thought he still had the right. I pulled away. Don't touch me. His face was red, his voice low. Rachel, If you file a police report, you will destroy me. I stared at him. You took out a loan in my name. I was trying to help Mom. No, you used Mom to help yourself. He paced once, then turned back. You don't know what it's like to have everyone expect you to be the man of the family. That almost made me laugh. Jason, everyone praised you for breathing. I was the one doing the work. His eyes narrowed. There it is. You always resented me. I resented being blamed for the things you didn't do. He looked toward the bank doors. Aunt Carol will understand. Mark will understand. They know I was under pressure. They saw the video. People forget video when family is at stake. That sentence told me more about him than any confession. People forget video when family is at stake. He was not ashamed of what he had done. He was calculating how long the evidence would remain stronger than habit. I said, I'm going to Mom. His face shifted. No, don't upset her. She needs to know. She had a stroke, Rachel. Are you really going to tell her her son might go to jail? Are you really going to ask me to keep lying while debt collectors chase me? He had no answer. At the care center, I sat in my car for 10 minutes before going inside. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I did not want to hurt my mother. I also knew silence had already hurt her. It had made her believe a false version of both her children. When I entered, she was sitting near the window with her speech therapist, practicing words from picture cards. Apple, window, daughter. The therapist smiled and said, She's having a good day. I almost turned around. A good day felt too precious to ruin. Then Mom saw my face and said slowly, What happened? Her words were clearer than usual. Maybe fear sharpens language. I sat beside her and took her hand. Mom, Jason took out a loan in my name. Her brow furrowed. For care? Some for care, not all. She looked toward the door, as if expecting him to appear with an explanation. Jason pays. I swallowed. Jason used my name to borrow money. He told everyone he was paying, but part of that money went to his own bills. Mom's hand trembled in mine. No. I hated that word. Not because I blamed her for saying it, because I recognized it. No was the first shelter people build when truth is too cold. I opened the folder and showed her the bank letter, the disbursement summary, the still image from the security video, Jason at the counter, Jason signing. Mom stared at the picture for a long time. Her mouth moved before sound came out. My boy. I thought she meant grief for him. Then tears slid down her face and she looked at me. Your name. I nodded. Yes. Her weak hand tightened around mine. He took your name. That sentence broke me, because she understood. Not all of it yet. Maybe not the legal details. Maybe not the money. But she understood the violation. Jason had not only taken money. He had used my name like it belonged to the family. Like I was a tool. Like my life was collateral. Mom began to cry harder. I believed him. I said, I know. I looked at you. I know. I thought. Her words failed. I leaned forward and put my forehead against her hand. I know, Mom. She whispered. Rachel came. I closed my eyes. Yes. Jason brought papers. I cried then. Not quietly, not neatly. Because finally, the woman at the center of all of it saw the difference. The next week was the ugliest week of my life. Not because the truth was unclear. The truth was painfully clear. The ugliness came from watching my family decide what they were willing to do with it. Aunt Carol called first. She was crying. Rachel, I'm sorry, she said. I should have believed you. I wanted to say, yes, you should have. Instead, I said, thank you. She asked what I was going to do. I told her I was filing the police report and the identity theft affidavit the bank required. She went quiet. Will that mean Jason is arrested? I don't know. He has kids. Jason had 2 kids with his ex-wife, both of whom he saw when it was convenient. I said, I have a life. Aunt Carol cried harder. I know, honey, I know. But knowing did not stop her from asking me to consider him. Mark was different. He came to my apartment with a box of documents he had gathered from Mom's mail. I found more, he said. There were notices Jason had hidden, late statements, care invoices, a letter from the bank sent to Mom's old address before they updated to mine. Jason had been intercepting mail whenever he visited Mom's apartment. I'm sorry, Mark said. I thought you were being defensive. I thought Jason was doing the hard part. Why? He looked ashamed, because he said it louder. That was one of the truest things anyone had said. Jason said everything louder. He said sacrifice louder. He said responsibility louder. He said family louder. I had been quietly doing what needed doing, and in my family, quiet work looks like absence next to loud performance. I filed the police report on Thursday. The officer listened, took copies, and told me financial crimes move slowly, but documentation helped. The bank froze collection activity while investigating. My credit report was marked disputed. None of it felt like relief. It felt like standing in the wreckage with a broom. Jason texted constantly. "You're ruining Mom's recovery. You're choosing money over family. You think you're perfect. You'll regret this when Mom is gone." I saved every message. The old Rachel would have responded point by point, trying to make him understand. The new Rachel understood he understood enough. He just did not like consequences. Mom changed after the truth. Not dramatically. Strokes do not allow dramatic transformations on schedule. Some days she remembered clearly. Some days she asked if Jason was coming and then cried when I reminded her things were complicated. Some days she looked at me and said, "I'm sorry," with such effort that I wanted to forgive everyone just to make the pain stop. But forgiveness would not fix a forged loan. It would not repair my credit. It would not return the money diverted from her care. So I started separating love from repair. I could love my mother and still demand records. I could grieve Jason's choices and still file reports. I could feel guilty and still refuse to pay a debt created by fraud. One Friday, the care center held a small family review. The social worker, Miss Patel, sat with us at a round table. Mom was there in her wheelchair. Aunt Carol came. Mark came. Jason did not at first. Then, 10 minutes late, he walked in wearing the gray jacket again. I wondered if he knew what that jacket had become. He sat across from me and looked at Mom. "Hi, Ma." Mom looked at him for a long time. Her face crumpled. "Why?" One word, small, devastating. Jason's eyes filled. "I was trying." Mom shook her head slowly. Rachel came. He looked at me with hatred, not because I had lied, because I had become visible. Ms. Patel asked, "For future care planning, who should be authorized to discuss financial matters?" Mom lifted her weak hand and pointed at me. "Rachel." Jason looked away, and that was the first official thing he lost. Jason's story changed many times after that. First, he said I had signed the loan and forgotten. Then he said I had verbally agreed. Then he said he signed with permission because I was too busy. Then he said the loan was mostly for Mom, so technically nobody was hurt. Each version was worse than the last because each one revealed he thought the problem was paperwork, not betrayal. The bank investigation uncovered details slowly. Jason had copied my driver's license from a file I had given him for Mom's care application. He had used an old employment letter I sent to help verify Mom's insurance paperwork. He had created an email address close to mine and used it to approve electronic documents. He had signed in person for the final packet because the bank required branch verification. He probably thought looking confident would be enough. For a while, it was. Confidence is a currency dishonest people spend until someone checks the account. Westbridge reversed the debt from my responsibility after weeks of forms, statements, reports, and verification. My credit was not fixed immediately, but it began to heal. The bank pursued Jason. The contractor who had renovated his kitchen was subpoenaed for payment records. His ex-wife called me after hearing rumors and asked if child support would be affected. I told her the truth and apologized, though I had done nothing. That is how far Jason's choices spread. Mom's care plan was revised. A public benefits counselor helped us apply for additional support. Aunt Carol started visiting twice a week, partly from guilt, partly from love. Mark handled transportation on Wednesdays. I still came every Saturday, but I stopped being the only solution. That was one of the hardest lessons. Sometimes being dependable lets everyone else become decorative. Mom improved a little through the winter. She never returned to who she had been before the stroke, but she became more herself in fragments. Her humor came back first. When a therapist asked her to practice saying, "responsibility," she looked at me and said, "Long word, heavy." I laughed so hard I cried. One afternoon, she asked me to bring the blue photo album from her apartment. We sat together, turning pages. There was Jason at 16 holding a baseball trophy. Me at 12 with crooked bangs. Mom, younger, tired, beautiful, standing between us with her arms around both our shoulders. She touched the photo with one finger. "I loved him wrong," she said. My breath caught. "Mom." She shook her head. "Loved you hard, loved him soft." I did not know what to do with that sentence. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me wanted to say, yes, yes you did. You made me earn what he received. You made my strength into your excuse. You made his weakness into my responsibility. I said neither. I simply held her hand. She whispered, "I'm sorry." I said, "I know." This time, I believed she did. Not fully. Maybe no parent fully sees the shape of what they did, but she saw enough to grieve it. Jason eventually took a plea agreement, restitution, probation, financial monitoring. No jail time at first, though any violation could change that. Aunt Carol thought I would be angry. I was not. I did not need prison to prove I had been harmed. I needed my name cleared. I needed Mom safe. I needed the family story corrected. At the final family meeting with Ms. Patel, Mom spoke slowly but clearly. "Jason is my son," she said. "I love him, but Rachel handles care." Jason stared at the table. I looked at my mother, and for once, love did not feel like a weight someone had tied to my ankles. It felt like a hand, weak but real, reaching toward the truth. A year after Mom's stroke, we celebrated her 65th birthday in the therapy center garden. Not with balloons and speeches staged for social media. Just a small table, a lemon cake, Aunt Carol, Mark, me, Mom, and 2 aides who had become part of her daily life. Jason was not there. He had visitation restrictions after an argument with the administrator about financial access. Mom asked about him once that morning. I told her he had sent a card. He had. It said, "I'm sorry for everything. Love, Jason." She held it for a long time, then placed it beside her plate. Love does not vanish just because someone breaks trust. That is one of the crueler truths. Mom still loved him. I still loved him in a damaged, distant way, but love was no longer allowed to manage the records. After cake, Mom asked me to walk with her. She used a cane now for short distances and moved slowly, but every step mattered. We stopped by a planter of red geraniums. She looked at me and said, "You saved me." I shook my head. "No, Mom, I helped." She frowned, searching for words. "You saved your name." That made my throat close. She was right. That was what I had saved. Not just money, not just credit, my name. The thing Jason used because he believed family ownership extended to identity. Rachel Adams, good credit, reliable daughter, quiet worker, useful sister. He had taken all of that and tried to sign debt over it. But the camera had remembered. The bank had recorded. The paperwork had a trail. And finally, I had spoken loudly enough for the truth to stay. I still visit Mom every Saturday. I still bring yogurt, socks, books, lotion, and sometimes flowers. But now the visits feel different. I do not arrive carrying invisible accusations. Aunt Carol thanks me without turning it into a comparison. Mark helps without needing a parade. Mom tells the aides, Rachel comes, and I no longer hear it as proof I must keep earning love. I hear it as simple truth. Jason and I have not repaired our relationship. Maybe one day there will be a conversation that does not begin with excuses. Maybe not. I am no longer building my peace around the possibility of his honesty. My name is Rachel Adams. I'm 34 years old. My family called me selfish for not paying for my mother's care. My brother said he showed up with money while I showed up with flowers. Everyone believed him because he said sacrifice loudly, and I did the work quietly. Then the bank played the security video. It showed my brother standing at the counter, using my documents, signing my name, and taking a loan he never had the right to touch. It showed what my family had refused to see. The person performing responsibility was not always the person carrying it. The loan was not just fraud, it was a mirror. It showed my aunt how quickly she believed the loudest voice. It showed my mother how differently she had measured her children. It showed my brother that charm is not a signature. And it showed me that silence is not always noble. Sometimes silence is the room where other people forge your name. I used to think being a good daughter meant absorbing pain quietly so the family could stay intact. I do not believe that anymore. A family held together by one person's silence is not intact. It is unpaid debt. And this time, when the bill came in my name, I refused to pay it.